Hello, and welcome back to the Making the Brand podcast. Today's episode is going to be a fun one, and dare I say, maybe even off the rails. We'll see how it goes. I am chatting with Kevin Graham, who does social at MANSCAPED, and I'm super excited to have you here. Thanks for coming in, Kevin.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. I'm
Uh,
really excited to hop on this.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. So, I would like to start with a bit of an icebreaker, though, because you do social for Manscaped. It's all about, kind of taking care of body hair and all kinds of things, which we'll get into. But
hmm
I think we have to kind of thank puberty for all of those things that we all have to take care with these days. So, I want to flash back to young Kevin. What were you like kind of in your awkward years, maybe in middle school, maybe as a freshman in high school, going through puberty, and just who were you at that time in your life?
Oh man. I was a wild kid. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely caused some problems with my parents. I was just always I loved to entertain people. So like in school, I got good grades, but my citizenship and the classroom stuff usually wasn't as good. I would say I fell in the class clown category. So I was always just I don't know making people laugh. I knew the best thing was making the teachers laugh because they try not to, but I could usually get them to chuckle a little. So even though they had to be uptight with me a bit, I knew they were laughing. They probably went home and were having a good time.
Yeah. And they probably had a soft spot for you because of that. Like they probably couldn't really show it, but
Yeah.
if you're cracking jokes and making them laugh and making their days a little better, I'm sure they appreciated that.
Yeah,
But
I
oh, go
think
ahead.
I always thought everyone's too serious about things. So I always try and just bring a little lighter side to, even serious topics or whatever. And I think it's carried over into what I do
I was
now.
gonna say, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It sounds like you were
hmm
gonna meant for this role. So, yeah, I'd love to flash forward to how you got in this role working for Manscaped. And I gotta know, do you love your job? Because it seems like you're having a blast.
Yeah, so I do love my job. It's kind of just the perfect fit for me, especially with how I grew up. Even in high school, I was always cracking jokes, and it literally feels like the content I create was the same funny stuff I was doing in high school, but now I'm getting paid to do it. It just really aligned with my humor style, and we at the company like to work really hard too. So it really was a nice fit. And I guess getting into the role was um, I loved Manscaped, and I was just loving how the company went about themselves. So I was like, I'm gonna find a way to work there, and I just kind of built up my resume. And when the opportunity struck, I was like, I'm joining this team. I'm finding a way.
Yeah. Did you have to do anything special to stand out? Like did you write like a funny cover letter or do anything to tailor things that way?
Yeah, I knew it was just going to be a sought after position, so I did a couple things. One, I took my resume and cover letter and I completely branded them like Manscaped. So all my extra skills were called all the trimmings, and it was completely branded the color of Manscaped, so I knew it would pop out to them. And I'd say the biggest thing is our director of social, Tyler. I cold emailed him and I sent him a video of me. A TikTok of me dancing to my resume. And so I just said first interview, kind of nervous, and with a clickable link. And when he, clicked on it, it's just me dancing to my resume because, I knew it just they're looking for someone that can have fun in the role and isn't afraid to embarrass themselves. So why not show that and stand out from the 200 whatever people in the stack?
Yeah, I love that. I'm such a huge proponent for that. And it's hard advice to give people because when I say that, you have to go the extra mile and do those things if you really want the position, I think it's sometimes hard for people to hear because they're just so exhausted if they've been on a job search forever and it's just like one more thing to write, one more thing to create. But if it's a job that you feel like is meant for you, that
hmm
extra mile is never crowded. I think those little things are necessary, and I'm glad it worked out for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited it did. And yeah, it's just been a crazy ride since.
Yeah. So I'd like to get a little clarity in your own words of who you think your target audience is, because I was thinking about this, and I love the brand. I don't think I'm the target audience, but I'd love for you to speak to, maybe sometimes you do target women because we're maybe buying the gifts. So how do you approach that? Who is your target audience?
Yeah, I think we have, a main target audience, and then it breaks out into more and more people that we're targeting. But we're really into like, people anywhere from like 25, 30 something, in that range. And I think the other big thing we do is, we're starting to target Gen Z too, and with younger platforms and stuff like that. And, so there's this balance of like targeting people that we're actually selling to and then building the brand awareness for the Gen Z and younger audience. But yeah, mainly we're in that range of like 25 to 30 something, people that are making decent money and are willing to, I would say we're a higher end product. So you're marketing to people that like want to be seen as, you see it with a lot of like the people we work with, like people want to show off that they're, using Manscaped, whether it's our, shirts or boxers. So um, it's definitely a fun target audience though, because we can kind of get wild and wacky with it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great that your audience is vocal like that and they're willing to share and they wanna be involved and part of the brand, so it's awesome to see how you all, capitalize on that over there. So,
Mhm.
you touched on it a little bit, but how would you describe Manscaped's brand voice? There's so many adjectives that you mentioned wacky already, but I'd love to hear your take on this, and I don't know if you have any, like, internal documents and things developed with your team, but how do you all describe yourself and your voice?
I think the word for the longest time that was rattled around Manscaped is rogue. Um, just because we're willing to, walk the line a bit. We try and keep it respectful, but you know, at the end of the day, we're marketing ball trimmers and beyond now. But um, our big thing I would say is, making it more mainstream to talk about things like that. That for a while it was like, I mean, growing up, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And, so it's like
Mhm.
making it, like not like this weird thing to talk about and just kind of normalizing stuff like that. I think it's been super helpful for, um, people that didn't know before. And that's why I think it also fit well with me working here is like, I kind of know who I'm marketing to so well, especially at like my age and where I'm at. It feels sometimes like I'm just talking to like my friends. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I go about it a lot. Cause I was looking at the target audience. I'm like, it's kind of like me just like talking to my friends. So if I like create content that like I know my friends would like or share within our group chat, stuff like that, that's what's been resonating really well with them.
Yeah, I always think that's so fascinating because I think sometimes to an extent, if you're lucky, the brand that you work for almost feels like an extension of yourself and it just comes more naturally to you. So I'm so glad that you found that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing about like if you're a social media manager or whatever working at a company that really fits and aligns with like who you are, your values, and like how you go about things, because it just makes it so much easier to market the product or service or whatever it is because you're already like aligned with it, and it's not like it's this super hard stress on like, oh my gosh, I have to do all this research on how to talk this way. And I think it led to me like quickly ramping up and understanding who the brand is, how it works, and how I can communicate with our audience.
Yeah. And you mentioned rogue as like one of the main adjectives for your brand voice. Was it like that when you started, or did you kind of have to convince them that we're going to go this route? And what was that like? Because that could probably be uncomfortable for leadership potentially.
I would say it was rogue from the start.
Mhm.
I would say the big brand builder was Tyler Wentworth. He was the director of social who really built up the brand, and just from the get go, they're pretty rogue with the socials, and I think that's what like alerted me into it. Um, just so much fun, and like you can tell they're enjoying what they're creating. Um, and so that was built out, and I feel like it hasn't been hard to continue that. I think nowadays, especially as a bigger brand, it's, you have more legal involved, you have more just
Yeah.
like, kind of making sure we're not getting in trouble with how things are now. So there's a lot more just like thinking through if something is funny, but not going too far. But that's the one great thing about working at Manscaped is the leadership has given us creative freedom. So it's basically like we trust you to make the decisions. Like day one, they gave me access to all the socials. It's like go, which is like crazy because I've worked at smaller companies where I've had to sit there and like get every little sentence run by people. So
Yeah.
the creative freedom there and the trust, and you can go to them if you have a question or want to see if something's too far, but letting you make the decisions because you're the one communicating with your audience every day. You understand what they like, what's going on. You know the trends better than most. So that's been super important. That's probably why I like my job so much.
Yeah, I'm so glad you have that because I think that's really hard to find, and it's true that taking risks, like, that's the way that you stand out, and a lot of teams get caught up in that, and they don't take those risks, and they make safe, boring content that no one talks about. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, very few people sell ball trimmers and can have fun with cracking jokes about that and making memes. But ultimately it's about having fun and entertaining and taking those risks when you can. Um,
hmm
so do you think on that note, do you think Manscaped is able to push boundaries in ways that other brands can't?
Probably. I mean, I think if you're in the social world, you've probably seen like, all the talk about horny brands and like, what's going on with like, brands pushing a little too far. I think we're in this safe space where like that's literally our product. So we can get away with a lot more. And like
Ah.
us talking about balls is just like, it's literally normal for
Mhm.
us. But then when other brands are starting to go a little rogue or crazy, it's like, okay, but you don't sell anything close to what you're talking about. I do think we have a little more leeway because of that, but I think we still try and make sure that that's not our only thing. Like we don't want to just be known for just like those jokes. Like we're really about building up the confidence in men and expanding them beyond the groin. So, it's like we just had ball trimmers, but now we're building out this whole arsenal of products to help out men from head to toe, basically with shampoos, conditioners, body sprays, and all that. So, what started with one thing to help the men, we're really expanding it all the way out.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to watch that pivot and to see how you guys manage that. But I think you already have such a great foundation. I think it's sometimes hard for brands to expand, especially kind of early on. But I think you guys are crushing it, and I'm excited to watch.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So you mentioned you were the class clown. You mentioned humor is a big part of
hmm
your online presence with Manscaped. I love to talk about pop culture on this podcast, just in general. So, what is your approach to coming up with funny things, I guess, or finding memes that you want to participate in, and doing culture jacking and staying informed on what's going on in pop culture? How do you manage all of that, and how do you know what trends you want to jump in on?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because there's a lot of talk about it right now, recently too, on like when to hop into trends, when not to, and it's something that I'm actually still learning. I wouldn't say I'm amazing at it. Is understanding when a trend aligns with your brand and um, not just hopping on it just because you're going to get likes. It's like making sure that it aligns with your target audience and you're bringing in the right people. Because, yeah, like a bunch of views are cool, but if you don't have the right people looking at your content, they're not going to buy at the end of the day. And I wouldn't say my job is directly get people to buy, but it's to bring the right people into our community. And so that once they're ready and we cultivate that community, it makes it that much easier for them to purchase and not only purchase, but become a repeat customer because that's what I think the community building does is when you do it right, they're willing to stay a part of the community and grow with the company rather than just like trying to get someone to buy one thing. But the pop culture stuff, I love like keeping up to date. So I'd say I'm extremely online, always just kind of seeing what's going on. And yeah, like if you can be quick with it, um, I think there's a balance to either being very quick and being one of the first ones, or being very calculated, waiting a bit, and making sure that that content is done right, very on brand. I think brands like Chipotle do a very good job of being on brand, and like they don't go right away with whatever's trending with the meme, but they make sure it's done well, clean, um, and just to the point. And I don't know if you look at their stuff a lot, but I feel like they always hit it right on the nail.
Yeah, they're
Um,
pretty much just a meme account at this point, it seems like.
yeah.
I love that you brought up that, and I think this is so important to discuss, that it's not necessarily your job to get people to buy. I think that's something that social media managers probably grapple with a lot and trying to prove their value and proving like, hey, this post brought in X revenue. And I think a lot of times leadership may be looking for that, but it's brand marketing, which means you're getting people to eventually choose you when they're ready to buy. So it's
Mhm.
so hard to, tie it back to, this post that was funny and made someone laugh also made them buy. No, it made them like the brand more and then eventually choose you when it became time to buy. So I think,
Yeah, and I do think that we have the advantage where we are a bigger company, so it's not like, I've worked at smaller companies where it's like the one social media manager does everything from organic to paid and all that. Um, and I have the opportunity where as organic, and we have a great paid team as well. Like I know that like my job is to bring people in, and then once they're in that ecosystem, they're gonna get hit with ads. They're gonna, and that's where like I respect all areas of the business. And like I know there's always this competition of like who's doing more, who's doing better. But in reality, if you all work together, like we've been building this relationship with our paid and organic team that like, oh, this is working well for us, this is doing well. And it's just this well-oiled machine of like, basically I'm bringing people in, and I know they're going to do the job to convert them to a sale. Um, so it's, I guess it's setting up like the beginning of the funnel in my mind. So my job really is entertain, educate, and that's kind of what I do. Have fun, make people want to feel a part of something. And so as much as I'm a social media person, I think the community building is like the really still underrated aspect of um, what brands can do to really build an audience online.
yeah. Do you want to expand on that? Just community in general and the
Mhm.
importance of that and your philosophy on it?
Yeah, community building is just something that like it makes so much sense nowadays. There's especially like people like me. I've been targeted to with ads my whole life. So like to me, I'm like I scroll so quickly through ads. And so like if you're creating content that just feels like an ad on your, main page, people are going to scroll through it. But if they see like an engaged user base on there, they're like, "Oh, why are so many people involved in this? Why are they commenting? Why are..." And so it's that idea of like getting people to feel a part of something. Um, and if you understand who that target audience is, you can cultivate this whole community of people that care about the product or just want to feel a part of something. I mean, that's how we are as humans. We want to feel like a part of a tribe. And so that's kind of what I'm doing is, I'm building this whole tribe of people that, and I would say it was already built and I'm just building on it, and leaning into the community aspect more. But that's what I think is so important is building out that community and that base. Cause then, it's not only word of mouth because people that love the product and the community are going to talk about you openly, but people now on social can see that. They can see the comments, and like I can tell pretty quickly on a post if there's an engaged audience or not. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I love that, just that mindset overall. I mean, I think it's so important to just make your audience involved, like you said, and to invite them to be a part of it. I think a lot of times we push messages out, but the more you can bring people in and involve them, it's always a great formula.
Mhm.
So getting back to some of your awesome content that you're putting out there, do any past posts stand out as far as any memes that you've done, any culture jacking you've maybe experimented with, or just a hilarious post that really took off? What are some of your greatest hits, if you will?
Hmm. The big one that comes to mind was um, we've been using Tumblr lately, and something that came up on Tumblr, I think it transferred over to some other socials too, but there was a Pika meme where basically Tumblr was announcing their ads and they're running ads on the platform. And to do that, they basically released this creepy photo of a person in like this Pikachu costume. And when doing that, they're trying to push users to go ad free and pay for the ad free so they don't have to see it. I thought it was a brilliant play. Um, but everyone was saying, they were like, because we do ads on there, they're like, oh, we'd rather see the Manscaped ads. For like, they're like,
Ah,
would rather see them instead of this creepy thing. So our team was like, we got to do something. And I think it was Tyler who came up with the idea, but I bought like a yellow suit, dressed up like a Pikachu, the Pikachu guy, and held a ball trimmer. So we just really leaned into that meme even more because we knew that it would resonate with them. And then all of a sudden, it blew up on the Tumblr. There were like hundreds of photos of me holding a ball trimmer dressed as like a Pikachu. And so like maybe it wasn't our highest performing ever, but it was just the most fun to like just really lean into like the meme of it. And I think that's where you can get stuff that does well, especially with memes, like leaning into like the pain points of the audience or whatever, whoever you're trying to talk to. Like you see that that's what they're saying, and understanding that audience and like what they're trying to project, and then leaning into it and saying, hey, we get you, and like here's some just fun entertainment that we're willing to do.
mhm.
And I think that won kind of a lot of the Tumblr users over.
Yeah, that's, like, hysterical and brilliant all at the same time. I'll have to look that up.
Mhm.
I'd love to just I don't think we've ever discussed Tumblr on this podcast. I'd love to learn a little bit more about, the strategy there and just your decision to get more active on Tumblr.
Yeah, Tumblr has a lot of Gen Z people on there now. I forget, I don't want to give a wrong number, but it's somewhere in the 40s or 50% of users on there now are Gen Z. And I really think it's a transition from like how oversaturated Instagram is, and like, people projecting not as authentic photos, they're all edited and all that stuff. And I feel like we've kind of seen this happen with Gen Z with TikTok and how they're trying to go to more of like this authentic style lifestyle. And I think Tumblr kind of gives them that more like going back to the Tumblr aesthetic. Like we started seeing on Instagram with, like Gen Z was posting more blurry photos, they're posting like photo dumps, and it was kind
Yeah.
of like pulling back the super edited photos. And then so it only made sense that they were going to start going over to Tumblr, and that's what happened. So they're I'll send you the article about it after, but there's this whole data dive into like how many Gen Z people are on there. So we're like, well, we might as well start building our presence out on there, and having fun and marketing to them in like a whole different way. And personally, I love it because it's a whole new challenge,
Mhm.
understanding a new platform. I mean, I was a little bit of a Tumblr boy back then, but um,
Yeah.
definitely learning it from the brand side.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear because it's definitely a blind spot for me, so it's, so interesting to, hear that. I'd love to read that article. Please send it to me.
Of course.
So you mentioned that, you Manscaped goes rogue, they can kind of get away with some things that maybe other brands can't. So for someone listening to this podcast that maybe works in a different industry, maybe, potentially more serious or buttoned up industry, what are some things people can still learn from you and from Manscaped in general?
I think the big thing is to just keep trying things. I think, we're a big brand, but we're still willing to test things out. Like, obviously, it shouldn't be your whole strategy, but like, we're willing to test things that push limits a little bit. And um, because you never know if you just play it safe, especially as a smaller brand, you're never really going to push that next level or understand like and find like a piece of content that really resonates with your audience that you can keep doing. So like we're willing to, and our leadership is great about it. We have our strategy, but we're willing to go outside it and test new things. If it doesn't do well, who cares? It's only been, if it wasn't seen by a lot of people, it wasn't seen by a lot of people. They probably just scrolled and it's gone. So I think it's worth just testing out new things and exciting things that you really believe will do well for your brand, and not falling into the trap of just getting likes and always catering to the algorithm, which I
Mhm.
still think I have trouble with, of the balance of like creating exact content for your brand and strategy and getting those likes and catering to the algorithm because you know it's going to do well. And so it's like kind of finding that middle ground because you do at the end of the day need stuff that performs, but also staying true to yourself and being that like creator and artist that you are.
Yeah, you've gotta experiment, and I think Manscaped, like, you don't put that brand in a box. You're willing to try new things, to get a little, you know, cheeky with it sometimes,
Little nuts.
but it works. It works. Very few brands can tweet, you know, "What does WAP stand for?" Stand for War Against Pubes, you know? Like, it's hysterical. I admire your creativity. I think it's so fun to watch. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for telling us more about it today. And everyone, go check out Manscaped. The holidays are coming up. I might have have to check it out and buy a few trimmers and things as gifts. Um, but where can people follow you? I know you're really passionate about community. Do I remember
Mhm.
that you have a newsletter in the works?
I
Did
have a
you?
newsletter in the works. It should be
Yeah.
coming out on this coming Monday. I don't know what day that is. I should probably know. um, let's see. It's coming
Exciting.
out on Monday the 24th. So that'll
Okay.
just be all things social, community building, and stuff like that. Just a nice free newsletter to keep you up to date with stuff going on. I love just staying up to date and helping people understand like trends and how they can improve their stuff. And then yeah, just following me on Twitter, Instagram at community Kev. I think there's an underscore. Um,
Mm.
and then I'm big on LinkedIn. I love sharing my stuff on there too. So shoot me with a connect request on there. Um, and also, I just wanted to like shout out that like it's not just me. It's like our whole team that makes this
Yeah.
happen, and the leadership allows us to be creative and do our best work. But so much of it is like behind the scenes, like our video production team, paid team, HR, like from top to bottom, like that's what makes our company go so well. Is it's just like this well-oiled machine that like it's so easy to chat with people on the influencer team, podcast team, and just work together towards a common goal.
Yeah, it sounds like you all are on the same page, and I think a lot of teams hit those roadblocks where they know they have this great idea, but they're not, getting that buy-in from the important people that will let you run with it. And it's really great to hear that you have that over there.
Yeah.
Um, you're also being modest about your LinkedIn. I think you were like ranked number one on some kind of LinkedIn list that I saw recently. So it's been awesome to see you over there, and I'm so excited that you have a newsletter to keep sharing things that you're learning with us.
Thank you. Yeah, that was exciting to see, but I'm always leaning back in it. It's the community. Like I can't build up and be number one or whatever it is without people willing to comment, to engage with me, and to build relations with me. So, I mean, I started LinkedIn like 5, 6 months ago, like really actually posting, and all of it was built through building connections and like meaningful connections with people. And it's just been crazy ever since. But yeah,
Yeah, well said. Well, I think the mark of any great community starts with a great host and a great leader. So, thanks to you, and also just shout out to the entire Manscaped team. You're doing great work. I can't wait to keep watching everything you all have in store. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or anything else you'd like to plug?
not really. I just say we've got some really exciting stuff coming up within these next couple months. So really excited to share some of those things. So just keep an eye out on our socials, and you'll see some fun stuff coming down the pipeline. But I wanted to thank you so much for having me on. I was really excited to jump on and just chat with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a good time, and yeah, I maybe we'll collab again together in the future. It would be fun.
I'd love to.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right.